So, the old Sigma, great guitar, did a video about it, not going to do another one. One thing I wanted to tap your minds about, get your feedback on, is an interaction that I have quite often, and I'm finding myself having to explain over and over again. And I just watched a video of a fellow Brit in a guitar shop somewhere in England. I just discovered his channel offhand, I don't remember the name of it, where he's talking about his struggles to sell guitars from his shop because people would rather buy them for $10, $15, $20 less on an online site, the most principal being Amazon or Guitar Center or Musician's Friend. And although I don't quite have that issue because I don't have a formal shop, I do stuff via the auction sites or online or via local listing sites. I do have to deal with a similar concept, and that is, say I have this guitar here listed for $160. Nice solid spruce top guitar, Sapele mahogany back and sides, great sounding guitar, good brand. The first thing a customer or a potential customer or an interested party is going to do is they're going to Google it. We live in the Google age. They're going to go Google it. It's natural. It's what we all do. So I list this guitar somewhere on any of those sites, and a lot of people are going to Google it, and then the first response I'm going to get is, why should I buy this from you if I'm seeing it on Amazon for the same price or even less than what you're offering it for? And you know, then I have to send that email. I should just have it somewhere so I could cut and paste it and send it, because I have to explain this all the time. And people who have their own shops and sell guitars set up in their shops also have this issue. I'm a bit of an exception, because most people who sell on the auction sites or from local selling sites like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace do not set their guitars up. They're just selling what's lying around their house. So I'm burdened with this as well. And here's the thing: if you buy a guitar from a guy like me, or from somebody's shop, be it a little small acoustic guitar shop somewhere in the village or out of the way, here's what you're getting for the extra money. Say Amazon puts this guitar here. It's not on Amazon yet. It's because this model is not actually fully distributed. It's a brand new model. But say Amazon gets a hold of it and someone writes to me and says, you want $160 for that, Amazon's selling it for $149 on sale. Why should I buy it from you? Here's why. When Amazon, or most eBay sellers, or most online sellers, not all but most, 90%, Sweetwater may be one of the exceptions. When most online sellers sell you a guitar, they are drop shipping it from a factory. If they have their own stock, they get it from a factory and they warehouse it. They don't reopen it and set it up when you purchase it. That's most of them. When you get a guitar drop shipped from the factory, unless you're buying a top model custom shop style guitar, somewhere in the $1,000, $2,000 range, you're going to get something that has been minimally set up, what we call in the industry a factory setup. And often a factory setup means no setup or very little setup, or that'll do setup. So what are you going to see first thing when you get the guitar out of the case, the Amazon box or whatever it is? First thing you're going to feel is those sharp fret ends. You're going to feel those sharp fret ends because the details aren't paid attention to in getting that guitar out in mass production. They do the bare minimal at the top end of the production line. They do a bare minimum setup. Somebody may clean up those fret ends very quickly, but once the guitar gets out into the elements, gets shipped around, the wood shrinks, those fret ends start sticking out again. And an online seller doesn't take care of that. Your average Craigslist fella that's selling his guitar on Craigslist doesn't take care of that. People like me do. So that's the first thing. The second thing you're going to notice is your action. On most guitars I get online, even from good online sellers, the action is usually high. Now action is actually subjective. And so when I say high action, it is subjective to my playing. This is important to recognize, because people often go, oh, that action's too high. Well, maybe for a blues player or a country picker, it's not. Maybe they want it high. Maybe they want higher gauge strings, fatter strings, round wound strings, you name it. There's a lot of reasons to have a high action. Maybe somebody's going to play a certain amount of slide, glass or brass slide on the guitar. They want a higher action. So action is subjective, but most of us want it somewhere between 5/16 and 4/16 across from high E to low E. A guy like me is going to do that. They're going to set that up. They're going to lower the, if it requires a lowered saddle, they're going to take the meat off the bottom of the saddle. They're going to adjust the truss rod. They're going to correct the angle of relief. They're going to clean up the nut slots. They're going to go through the tuners. They're going to oil the tuners if they're sticky. They're going to oil the fretboard or lubricate the fretboard. They're going to go through the inside, make sure there are no loose braces. They're going to look at, I look over every guitar very carefully. Is it cracked? Does it have seams coming apart? Does it have strap buttons coming off? Are there loose frets? Are there loose washers under the screws? Here, I have to tighten these all the time. Is the button here loose or coming out? Is there a crack in the bridge? Are any of the bridge pins broken? Is there a crack or a fissure in the saddle? Is the saddle plastic? Is it bone? All of these things go by the way of a factory setup. It's not going to be addressed. You're going to get the guitar rude. It's going to come to you rude. And only people like me, or the poor guy in the local guitar shop that actually bothers to set up a guitar before he sells it, are going to be able to get you a guitar that you get out of the box, and most times out of 10 you're going to be able to play it. It's going to feel good, it's going to sound good, because they've hand finished it or set it up or given it a setup, whatever phrase they use. You get a guitar that's playable, that feels good. Now, it's not full safe, it's not foolhardy, because things change when you ship them. I live in a dry climate. I live in Colorado, and I get stuff and I set it up and I ship it to a more humid state, or I ship it to a coastal region. It might shift a little bit. The action might change. The wood might swell up a bit. You might get a little bit of incremental shiftage in my setup and when it arrives. So I always put that disclaimer to people. You know, I set it up to the best of my ability. When you get it, you might still have to make some small adjustments to either suit your playing style or to adapt to the conditions or the environment that you're in. But it's going to be a lot smaller, it's going to be a lot less work than having to deal with a factory setup. And I think this is one of the most important videos that I can make, because people don't understand this. They think, oh, Amazon's cheaper, I'm going to order from them. If you order a guitar from Amazon, you might get lucky, it might play right out the box. But I tell you, I think at least 80% of the time, maybe slightly smaller, maybe slightly more, you buy a guitar from one of those online sellers where they don't do a fine-tuned setup before shipping it out, and you're getting it drop shipped from a factory. Most of the time, you're going to have to do some work on your guitar. So you've saved, what, $10, $20 in buying it from Amazon? But then you've got to take this guitar to your local luthier or your local shop and get it set up. And I don't know anyone in the industry that does a full guitar setup for $20. It's more like $50, $60, $80, even $100 to have a full across the board setup of a guitar. So you thought you were saving money, But you're either going to get a guitar that plays very poorly and you get disenchanted with and you quit, or you stop playing, or it starts laying around because it doesn't feel good. Or you're going to have to take that guitar to your local repair or guitar shop and have somebody do some work on it, usually to the tune of $50 to $100. So, this is the point I try to make. And of course, in making that point, it sounds surly, it sounds... some people take it wrong. Oh, you're a luthier, eh? Sometimes I get that response, but I'm just being honest. It's worth paying $20 extra or $40 extra from an outlet that sets up the guitar and fine tunes it for you. It's worth paying an extra $40 to buy a guitar from Sweetwater where they do a final check. Than it is from Amazon, where they usually don't, where it's usually coming drop shipped from a factory by some remote seller. So I'm trying to change the consciousness. Not everything cheaper is better. Not everything on sale is going to come to you in better condition. It's not. And usually you're going to have to spend more on it anyway. I still try to compete with Amazon. It's really, really hard, especially when I'm selling something new. When I sell used guitars, normally I don't have to because they're not even on Amazon. But if I'm selling something that's still in production and I've got to compete with them, I do my best to get close to their price. Sometimes I get surprised. I look it up one day and I think I've got a good price on an instrument, and then somebody tells me 3 days later, oh, Amazon's selling that for $50 less, and they just put it on sale. And then I try to adjust my prices to get people the instrument, for around the same price. But it's really hard. I mean, you got to remember, Guitar Center, Amazon, they buy guitars in bulk, and they sell them at tiny profit margins. They sell lots of them, so they can afford to sell them just above wholesale. Whereas other guitar shops and other luthiers and other smaller online sellers, they can't compete. They can't match those prices. They can't buy in that quantity to get that price break to offer the guitar at that price. So this is just all about that question. Why should I buy it from you? And hopefully, if you're in the same situation, or if you're thinking about buying a guitar, you might factor that in. Is it worth the extra $20, $30 because that guy's going to set it up? That guy's going to clean up the fret ends. That guy's going to check the relief. He's going to check the action. He's going to clean up the nut. He's going to go through the interior so I don't have issues, loose braces and other internal issues when I get the guitar. It is worth it. It is worth at least putting that into consideration, even if you don't want to pay, the money. At least think about it and be aware that there's a whole process here, and not every seller is equal, and you're getting slightly different product depending on what kind of seller you're buying from. I could go on, but I'll stop there and leave it at that. But anyway, know your seller. See you next time.